One cold night in the deep woods of the Waipoa forest, a family was heading home from Opanoni, and their car suddenly coughed and spluttered and then broke down along the darkened and twisted roads. Shane really dragged out the tensions with his pauses. Only a few weeks earlier had someone been murdered and decapitated there, almost in the same spot. No one had ever found the body. His head was found, though, a couple of days later. It looked like it had been thrown into the bush, or maybe it rolled. No one really knew. It had dried up and blackened, and was infested with maggots. Oh, gross. Well, what do you expect? Now shut up and let me finish. They found it near the giant kauri tree, Tani Mahuta, king of the forest. Oh, come on, Shane. Boring. Isn't that the one where the father has his head chopped off? Everyone knows that story. Can't you do any better? Yeah, but you haven't heard what really happened. Oh, get over it, man. Let me tell you a story from around here. And so it was my turn. I told Shane about the man who was pushed off the mountain just above our farm. I told him how some of the neighbours had heard his cries and how he was screaming, "Utu! Utu!" as he fell, until finally, when he hit the trees below, all his entrails burst and covered the bushes below. I'd been talking for a few minutes and I was really enjoying my graphic descriptions of how messy his ghost. Messy because he wasn't really in one piece anymore. You get that after a 300-foot fall. Had been seen by many of the locals and was still hunting the district for the person who had pushed him over the edge. He was still crying out, "Utu! Utu!" as he hunted for him, particularly on windy nights. Utu? What does that mean in English? It's revenge, man, in Maori. Don't you know any Maori? Yeah, of course I know some. Kia ora, onehunga, and how's it, bro? We both laughed. Anyway, Shane, shut up and let me finish. So I continued. You can always tell when his ghost was around because the winds would suddenly blow really strong. A lonely sound was heard from above our heads and it echoed around our campsite. Shane's eyes flashed wide, uneasy. His head snapped around this way and then that, trying to find the source of the noise. What the heck was that? Oh, come on, Shane. Don't you even know what that is? You're a typical city slicker, aren't you? It's just a moorpork, also known as a ruru. Don't you know anything about our own native owl of New Zealand? He's calling for a mate. Man, you're hopeless. I'd hoped you'd learn something today. Remember your experience after lunch? Oh, shut up. That was so unfair. Oh, but so funny. I laughed again as I remembered how horrible I'd been to Shane that day while we were driving over the farm on the tractor. He was standing on the transport carrier, which is a platform that pokes out of the back of the tractor connected to the rear hydraulics. Him and the transporter were bouncing about as I drove along the rough raceway tracks. Now, at one time in the raceway, I decided to see what he would do if I backed him up into an electric fence. I knew he wouldn't get a shock, as the tyres on the tractor are huge and made of rubber, so they won't allow the fence to earth, hence no shock. However, he didn't know that. Heck, I'd even managed to get him to pee on an electric fence once. Boy, that was hilarious. I felt really bad about that one afterwards, as he leaped up and down and howled in pain, and then tried to run after me to give me a well-deserved knuckle sandwich. But it's hard to chase someone when your pants are still around your ankles, though. Boy, I have some fun when my towny cousins come to visit us on the farm. Anyway, as we got closer to the wires, he was shouting, literally shouting and swearing at me, telling me to stop! Stop the bloody tractor! I don't want a shock! Stop, you idiot! He had many colourful names for me too, and I was laughing so hard I nearly wet myself. He was freaking out, but I kept on backing him up anyway. Now, as we were just about to touch the hot wires, he did the most stupid thing that I wasn't expecting him to do. He jumped off the transporter. And guess what? As he landed on the ground, He had his hand on the transporter for support, and then zap!